Gabriel caught a whiff of the air and wrinkled his nose. "Do you smell that?" "It's Asmodel's scent," he said, his voice tinged with anticipation. "Finally, you'll be able to have flawless skin and hair," he added, teasingly. Nearby, Polly Castle's vice captain, keeping watch, remarked, "I think the demon's scent has faded." Yet, there was unease in the air. "That thing is still nearby," came the measured response of HeiYu, another vice captain. Vice Captain Garland motioned for everyone to remain alert. "Let's take a look outside," he said, stepping into the somber atmosphere. The surrounding area was unusually gloomy, adding to the tension. "Vice Captain," one of the hunters asked, "the demon we're after this time, is it a high-ranking one?" "We don't have much information," the vice captain admitted, his expression grim. "What we do know is that this demon approaches people disguised as a human. The victims' bodies," he paused, his tone growing darker. "Their mouths and noses show signs of trauma, as if something hard was thrust inside. Their internal organs and skeletons were completely gone. It's as though they were sucked out, leaving behind only human skin." "Human skin?" one of the younger members exclaimed, horrified. "Vice Captain, what happened to them?" a concerned voice asked. "This is inappropriate for children," he replied, his voice sharp yet protective. "But Vice Captain, I'm already an adult," came the retort, earnest but shaken. Still, something about the scene felt off. The air grew heavier as the team prepared for what might be lurking just out of sight. "Something's not right," the vice captain murmured, his instincts sharpening. As the group advanced cautiously, someone gasped, is this it?" "It looks like we've found it," another confirmed, their voice tense with realization. The sight before them was startling. Who knew it could even fly? They all realized with sinking hearts they had been too late. The vice captain wasted no time. In one swift and powerful motion, the monster was slain, its body collapsing with a grotesque finality. "Vice Captain," someone exclaimed in awe, "that was incredible. You killed the monster with just a single swing." Without missing a beat, the vice captain gave orders. "Neil, inform Team 6 to handle the cleanup. Your work here is done too." Neil nodded quickly, already shifting into action. "Don't worry, Vice Captain. I'll make sure the log records are updated when I return. By tomorrow morning, I'll deliver the gem heart to the Magic Research Department." The Vice Captain's expression remained unreadable. "You don't look well," Neil noted with concern. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," the Vice Captain replied curtly. "I'll be heading off now. There's something else I need to take care of." "Please go ahead," Neil said, stepping aside. The Vice Captain walked away, shoulders tense as if carrying a weight invisible to others. Thankfully, the highest floor of the castle was mostly deserted, offering a quiet reprieve. But as he reached a secluded spot, pain gripped his chest. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath, clutching at his heart. The pain was sharper this time, spreading through him with alarming intensity. Through the haze of agony, a thought surfaced. "I finally found you." "Where am I?" The voice broke the silence as the figure stirred. "You're awake," a low, commanding voice responded. The tone was calm, but edged with warning. "If I didn't need answers from you, you'd already be dead." The speaker leaned back slightly, studying them. "Instead, I stayed here, waiting for you to wake up." The air grew tense as the question followed, sharp and direct. "Why do you smell like Asmodeus?" Confusion clouded their mind as they looked at the stranger. "Who is this person?" "That scent," the stranger continued, "is like an aphrodisiac to demons. It attracts all sorts of perverts." The accusation made their eyes widen in disbelief. "What is this nonsense about perverts?" But the stranger wasn't waiting for an answer. "Not going to talk?" His gaze fell on a badge they carried. "Are you a member of HeiYu Rocket Watch?" He smirked. "You're quite the charming lady." "Put that down," they snapped. "What do you want to know?" "Where does that smell on you come from?" he demanded. After a moment of hesitation, they sighed. "It happened when I was young, and Asmodeus was drawn to my heart." The stranger's eyes narrowed. "And how do you expect me to believe that?" "It left a mark on my body," they admitted reluctantly. Where is it? On my back, they replied, voice barely above a whisper. The stranger leaned closer, interest flickering in his gaze.
I see.
A weak demon must have latched onto a beautiful human form, lying dormant, waiting for resurrection. He traced the idea aloud, his voice tinged with fascination. They say that a mark like this, a dark, rose-colored bloom, will grow slowly over time. Once it extends to meet your chest, it signifies the death phase. Their voice tightened. I know. When the mark reaches full bloom, my remaining lifespan will be less than a year. The stranger's expression shifted, cold resolve settling over him. It looks like you're nearing that phase. When your time comes, I'll collect your heart. I won't let your soul fall into the hands of demons. He sniffed the air suddenly, his expression hardening. The Asmodeus scent on you is still too strong. What are you doing? They shouted, alarmed as he approached. He pulled out a peculiar necklace. I'm giving you this. Consider it a deposit for your heart. They stared at the object, incredulous. You call that a necklace? It's a bit unique, he admitted, but it will suppress that scent. Protect your rare heart and avoid attracting perverts. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. His voice softened slightly, almost a promise. It won't be long until we meet again. The memories of that night were a complete blank. When he woke, he found himself lying in the dense jungle near Morris Castle. Who is that bastard? The thought gnawed at him as he clenched his fists. Not only had the stranger attacked him, but they'd also stolen his rocket watch. Garland, a familiar voice, interrupted his thoughts. Captain, Garland responded, turning to face Roper Hawk, the captain of HeiYu. You rarely look this restless. What's happened? Roper asked, his sharp gaze assessing the situation. It's nothing, Garland replied curtly. Just some minor issues. Roper didn't press further. Accompany me to Karnas, he said. Is there a new mission? Garland inquired, straightening his stance.
No.
We're meeting someone, a rather troublesome person, the captain replied, his tone heavy with meaning. A target? Garland asked, narrowing his eyes. This individual has been hunting demons relentlessly, Roper explained. Though their actions are aligned with justice, it's clear they derive pleasure from the act. Their skills are highly regarded, and their targets are no ordinary demons. They only hunt high-value demons possessing humans. The bodies are left without hearts, completely extracted. Garland's brow furrowed. And recently, for reasons unknown, their activities have ceased, Roper admitted. But as members of HeiYu, we can't allow such unchecked lynching to persist. Who are they? Duke Hazel, the captain answered. The carriage arrived at the Duke's estate, a bleak and somber place far removed from the grandeur one might expect of nobility. Good evening, gentlemen, a steward greeted them. You must be Mr. Hawk and Mr. Neuss. Lord Duke has been expecting you. Please follow me. The pair followed the steward through the cold, silent halls of what was called the Order of St. Yaris. Why would nobles live in such a desolate place? Garland muttered to himself, glancing at the austere surroundings. The Lord Duke's study is at the end of this corridor, the steward informed them. Feel free to rest while you wait. Lord Duke will arrive shortly. Huh. Garland paused, his attention caught by something down the hall. Sir, the steward asked, noticing his hesitation. Would it be all right if I stayed here for a moment and looked around the corridor? Garland requested. Go ahead, the steward replied. Roper, however, gestured for Garland to hurry. Let's go to the study room first, he urged. But Garland's attention was riveted to a familiar object resting on a pedestal. If I'm not mistaken, that's my rocket watch. The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning, which means the person who took me that night is here. In the study, a low, smooth voice broke the tension. We meet again. Garland's eyes locked onto the speaker. The vice captain of HeiYu, Duke Hazel said, a cold smile curling his lips. And my prey? When Garland confronted him, his voice was sharp with accusation. The person who took me away that night. It was you, wasn't it? Hazel responded with a calm, mocking smile. As expected of the vice captain of HeiYu. Your sharpness is truly commendable. Stop with the nonsense. Garland snapped. Give me back my pocket watch. Hazel tilted his head, his smile deepening. You look majestic and terrifying when you're angry, Captain. Truly fitting for a member of HeiYu, considering your skill. Garland glared, his patience wearing thin. Can we skip to a peaceful discussion already? Hazel let out a theatrical sigh. You're a difficult one to deal with, aren't you?
Fine.
I can return your pocket watch, but on one condition, you cooperate with me later. Before Garland could argue further, the door opened, and a steward stepped in. My apologies for the wait. Allow me to introduce Duke Hazel, the owner of this estate. Hazel nodded lightly. A pleasure to meet you, Roderick Hawk. And Garland Neuss, of course. Mr. Neuss and I already crossed paths earlier in the corridor. Garland stiffened at the mention of their earlier encounter, but kept his composure. Roderick spoke, his tone professional. Lord Duke, I assume you understand the reason for our visit? Hazel chuckled softly. No need for formalities, just call me Hazel. And yes, I'm aware. My actions were simply those of a righteous citizen protecting the people. I hope my methods didn't trouble your organization too much. Garland's thoughts churned. He's lying. This isn't about justice. He's hunting Asmodeus for sport, ***. Roderick addressed him directly. While your intent may be to rid the world of evil, your approach has caused problems for HeiYu. Your actions have sown panic among the people and brought unwanted pressure from the government. I hope you can understand our concerns. Hazel's smile remained unfazed. I completely understand the importance of procedural justice. In fact, during our earlier chat, Mr. Neuss here had a brilliant suggestion. Garland tensed, realizing what was coming next. Hazel continued smoothly. He enthusiastically invited me to join HeiYu. Wouldn't that solve both our problems? It would ensure my actions are monitored and coordinated with your team. Besides, I hear Mr. Neuss is in need of a partner. Roderick raised an eyebrow, turning to Garland. Is that true, Garland? Garland hesitated but finally replied, yes. He suspected that Hazel's interest in joining HeiYu had more to do with the mysterious mark on his body than any genuine desire to cooperate. Roderick's tone turned cautious. Lord Duke, we'll need time to discuss your proposal. Hazel gestured magnanimously. Take all the time you need. It's late after all. Gentlemen, please stay here tonight. You may use the guest rooms to discuss in private. Later, in the guest room, Roderick spoke in a low voice. Garland, you've always refused a partner. What's changed? Garland's expression was grim. Hazel is a tricky person. If he remains free, it'll be harder to control his actions. By allowing him into HeiYu, we can supervise him closely. Roderick sighed. It's certainly the least troublesome option for now. But be careful, his motives aren't as simple as they seem. The following morning, the decision was made. Hazel's expression brightened as Roderick announced, after consideration, we've decided to accept your proposal. Welcome to HeiYu, Lord Duke. It's an honor, Hazel replied smoothly. But please, keep my identity a secret. I wouldn't want to burden anyone with unnecessary pressure. As the HeiYu team prepared to leave, Hazel turned to Garland with a knowing smile. Mr. Neuss, my future partner, I look forward to working with you. Garland's gaze remained cold, even as he replied, likewise. HeiYu, commonly known as Black Rain, is officially titled the St. Yari's Black Rain Knights. Based in Luminos, the capital city of St. Yari's and known as the City of Light, the Knights of Black Rain operate under the command of Her Majesty the Queen. As a global organization, they strive to maintain world peace by scouting talented individuals from various fields worldwide. These recruits are rigorously trained to become elite members tasked with upholding the order and protecting the balance of the world. Garland Neuss, the deputy captain of the Black Rain Special Operations Department, has always preferred to work alone. His intimidating reputation strikes awe and fear in rookie newcomers. But even someone as formidable as Garland finds himself facing a troublesome situation. 3 days after the castle encounter, Black Rain Dormitory. Hazel lounged comfortably, breaking the silence with a teasing tone. Don't stare at me like that. I didn't sneak in illegally.
Meow.
He grinned, motioning to the dorm manager nearby. She brought me here. The dormitory manager handed Garland a packet titled Black Rain Tips, which detailed the rules for facilitating missions. The key takeaway? Partners must live together. Hazel smirked, clearly enjoying Garland's growing frustration. Don't move. I'd rather not have to tie you up every time we meet. He held up a necklace, its intricate design unmistakable. This is your gift, isn't it? Not only does it suppress the aura of the devil, but it also slows down your heart attacks. Garland's expression darkened as Hazel continued, his tone softer but still pointed. Your body is weakening, especially when you use your abilities. You've felt it, haven't you? I noticed last time at the castle. You weren't wearing this necklace then, and you're not wearing it now either. Or, Hazel's smile grew sly. Would you like me to put it on for you? Though Garland said nothing, he knew Hazel was wrong. His symptoms had been worsening, the attacks becoming more frequent. Hazel's words, as mocking as they were, carried an unsettling truth. Hazel stepped closer, his gaze lingering. You know, with such enticing skin, if someone were to capture you, they might not be as forgiving as I am. Switching gears abruptly, Hazel asked with genuine curiosity, how do you, a nobleman of St. Yari's, know about the forbidden spell for maintaining immortality? It's a lost art that requires immense magical power. His tone shifted slightly, becoming sharper. This is beyond the usual prey I've hunted. Garland glared, refusing to answer. Hazel raised his hands, feigning innocence. Don't worry, I won't let anyone else see your vulnerabilities. Later that day, Garland was tasked with escorting Hazel to headquarters for his official registration. As they toured the facilities, Garland spoke curtly, introducing each area with minimal detail. This is the hall where daily operations are handled. That person over there is the captain. You already know who he is. He gestured to another area. That's the storage room. Case files are kept here. Hazel tilted his head, his expression amused. Is it normal for HeiYu to treat newcomers so indifferently? Garland didn't dignify the question with a response. Instead, he snapped, Do I need to teach you how to walk, too? When Hazel's registration was complete, staff members provided him with his daily necessities. As word spread about Garland's new partner, murmurs and curious glances followed them wherever they went. Hazel chuckled softly, observing the stares. It seems everyone wants to pay their respects to Lord Garland's new partner. He paused, his voice dripping with mischief. Adding you and me together? We're double the terror. Garland sighed in exasperation. I don't care where you go, Hazel. Just don't drag anyone else into whatever you're planning. Hazel's smirk returned. Oh, don't worry. I'm only interested in you, Lord Garland. Garland's expression soured further, his unhappiness unmistakable. Around them, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Hazel's presence drew too much attention, and Garland couldn't shake the unease settling over him. What are all these people staring at? Hazel whispered, his tone feigning innocence, but clearly relishing the chaos he caused. The bustling marketplace was alive with chatter as vendors called out their wares. Come, come, and see the rare pearls of Lake Village. Each one for just a single gold coin. A passerby frowned, muttering, That's steep for just a pearl. Another replied, They say most of these rare finds go straight to the royal family. Only a few are sold to common folk. One pearl caught particular attention, a peculiar one with a faintly human-like face etched into its surface. The observer shivered, unable to shake an uneasy feeling. Suddenly, a frantic voice interrupted the market's lively atmosphere. Lord of the Black Rain, please help me. The speaker's voice trembled with desperation, and as they looked closer, it became clear the individual was entangled in something unseen yet profoundly troubling. Inside the Black Rain quarters, Garland raised an eyebrow as Hazel escorted the distressed individual in. Why did you bring him here? This isn't a homeless shelter. Hazel replied smugly. Don't you live here too? Besides, you've scared him so badly, he can't even speak. Garland crossed his arms, his voice steady. All right, what happened? The man stammered, his story disjointed, yet eerily specific. I've been trapped in the same day, over and over again. Garland narrowed his eyes. Do you expect me to believe that? The man's tone grew more frantic. At exactly 9:45 a.m., there will be a fire at the Corkery store, no casualties. At noon, tickets for the Gloria Theater go on sale. By night, Princess Ashar will give birth to a baby girl named Tanya, and the news will publish the announcement at 10:47 p.m. At 9:55 p.m., it will rain, stopping exactly an hour later. He inhaled sharply. I've lived through this day too many times. I could recite it backwards. Garland's expression remained neutral. Time hasn't caught up yet. We'll see if your predictions come true. Hazel leaned in, his tone less dismissive. If you're telling the truth, something significant must have triggered this loop. A turning point, but you can't remember, can you? The man's face twisted with frustration.
No.
I can't remember clearly. Just then, a chilling presence filled the room as something stirred outside the window. Hazel stiffened, his voice dropping. That thing will make you remember. The man's eyes widened in terror. She's here again. The room was tense as Brian's panicked plea filled the air. Help me, he begged, his voice trembling. Garland observed him carefully. It's a resentful spirit, transformed by its own grievances. For now, it won't be able to enter the house. But tell me, what happened between you two? Brian hesitated before beginning his story. My name is Brian. Elena lived in the city of Ayers, and I'm from a neighboring town. I worked as a porter, traveling between the two places. That's how I met Elena on her way to school. We ran into each other often, and eventually became friends. He paused, his gaze dropping to the floor. Even though I was 10 years older than her, we connected deeply. We talked about everything, and eventually fell in love. But her father, a wealthy blacksmith, despised my profession and strongly opposed our relationship. So, we eloped, Brian continued, his voice laden with regret. We fled to St. Yares, hoping to build a life together. But life in the big city was far harder than we'd imagined. No matter how frugal we were, we couldn't make ends meet. After struggling for 3 years, we returned to Ayers, thinking her family might finally accept us. His fists clenched.
But nothing changed.
Her father still rejected me. Worse, I lost my job and ended up homeless. Desperate and hopeless, Elena proposed something drastic. She said, since we can't be together in this life, let's meet again in the next. Brian's voice wavered as he relived the memory. But when the moment came, when I saw the horror of her death, I couldn't follow through. I flinched. I wandered the streets in a daze for an entire day, unable to face what had happened. His expression darkened. Then, at midnight, when the tower bell rang, everything reset. I woke up back at the same morning, as though nothing had happened. At first, I thought it was a second chance, to stop the tragedy, to undo my mistakes. He shook his head. But no matter what I did, it was futile. I searched for her, asked everyone I met about Elena, but no one seemed to know her. It was as if she had never existed. The same events played out every time. The fire at Corkery store, tickets going on sale at Gloria Theater, the royal announcement of Princess Ashar giving birth to a baby girl, and the rain at 9:55 p.m. It was all the same, over and over. His voice broke. And then the scene of her suicide would replay in front of me, again and again. No matter where I went or how far I tried to escape, she would appear, jumping to her death before my eyes. Brian buried his face in his hands. I'm trapped in this endless cycle. Every day is the same, and I can't escape. When I met you today, I thought, maybe you could help me. Garland glanced at the clock. It was 9:55, and rain began to fall outside. Hazel looked out the window, then back at Brian. So, it's true, he murmured. Garland stood. We'd better take a closer look. This spirit's resentment is powerful, enough to trap you in time itself. It must be tied to some deep injustice. Hazel raised an eyebrow. Are you really going to help him? That's unusually kind of you. Garland's gaze was steady. It's not about kindness. Resolving this is the only way to break the curse and end the cycle. As they stood at the designated spot, Garland scanned the area with focused intensity. Right here, he said firmly. She hasn't appeared yet, but I can feel it. A strong presence of grievances lingering in the air. There's still a chance to reach her before she's completely consumed by resentment. Hazel glanced at him skeptically. Are you really planning to use such a troublesome method to communicate with her soul? Before Garland could respond, a faint sound broke through the tension. I hear it, he said urgently, closing his eyes to concentrate. Pain, the voice of her soul. Elena? Brian called out, his voice trembling with a mixture of hope and despair. Elena, please don't suffer anymore. But suddenly, Garland stiffened, his expression darkening. Not good, he muttered. There's no trace of human consciousness left in her now. Hazel stepped closer. Are you hurt? He asked, noting Garland's unsteady posture. Garland shook his head, though his pale complexion betrayed him. Hazel frowned. This is what happens when you let your soft heart lead you, Lord Garland. Your body is already weak, yet you still insist on pushing past your limits to connect with her. Brian interrupted, his desperation peaking. I just want to get out of this endless loop, this repetitive nightmare.
Can you help me?
Garland looked at him with unwavering resolve. Yes, don't worry. I will set you free. A chilling voice echoed in the air, sharp and possessive.
No.
I don't want to be free. We can be together forever. The tension snapped like a taut string. Garland gritted his teeth as a surge of spiritual power coursed through him, forcing the entity back into silence. He exhaled heavily. It's over for now. Hazel studied him warily. This is the second time you've done this. You're pushing yourself too far. If you keep wasting your spiritual energy in this state, you'll collapse. Garland's eyes narrowed at the ominous atmosphere still lingering. The resentment in her spirit runs deep. She sees all humans as murderers, tiny, fragile, and undeserving of survival. Her grudge won't fade easily. Hazel crossed his arms. You need to focus on yourself first, Lord Garland. You're in no condition to handle this alone. Garland, pale but resolute, nodded faintly. I'll manage, but we don't have much time. The imprint had spread further, a grim reminder of Garland's haunting past. 22 years ago, a young Garland stood in the doorway as his father, Ionos, hurriedly prepared to leave. There's an emergency, his father had said, his tone urgent. I'll take the team and deal with it immediately. You stay home and don't go out, understand? Yes, Dad. Garland had replied obediently, watching as Ionos disappeared into the night. Dad will be back soon, right? Left alone in the quiet house, Garland had tried to reassure himself. But then, the silence was broken by a faint, familiar voice. Garlandois, my child, it whispered. His heart skipped a beat. Mom, he called out, hope and fear intertwining. The voice grew louder, tinged with pain. Garlandois, it hurts, help me. Save me. Following the voice, he entered a dimly lit room and froze. His mother was there, her form twisted and unnatural, her eyes pleading. Come closer, my son, she said softly. Mom, is it really you? He asked, tears streaming down his face. I've missed you so much. I've missed you too, my son, she replied, her voice sweet yet unsettling. You're such a good boy. Can you pull out the nails for me? Garland hesitated but couldn't resist the longing in her tone. He stepped forward, reaching out to help her. But the moment he touched her, the warmth of reunion turned to chilling terror. Her voice shifted, deeper and more sinister. Such a perfect container, she hissed. The memory blurred after that. When Garland awoke, he was told he had been saved. Yet, the events of that night remained a hazy, fragmented nightmare. He had no idea then that the ordeal had unlocked an ability within him, a dark gift to communicate with devils. That night marked the beginning of his endless torment. Hazel's voice brought him back to the present. You really have a way of making everyone worry, don't you? Garland didn't respond. The weight of his past and its lasting consequences hung over him like a shadow, one he could never escape. Gabriel, where's the necklace? Garland muttered under his breath, frustration clear in his voice. He was furious that it had been thrown aside so carelessly. How could he throw it here? The situation was dangerously close to spiraling out of control. The scent of a smode filled the air, pushing Garland to the brink of losing control. He clenched his fists, trying to regain composure. Damn it, so close. Waking up from his trance, Garland's voice grew sharper. Go away. He paused, taking a deep breath. If you don't want to end up like this, just wear the necklace. The necklace had always been a safeguard, and now, in moments like these, it was more crucial than ever. If I face this again, he thought grimly, I can be sure I'll be able to control myself, to be the good person I need to be. Then, his attention was drawn away by the sound of someone approaching. Excuse me, is anyone there? Garland turned to see a young man standing at the door, eyes wide in awe. Wow, this is the new partner from the legendary Black Rain, he said, clearly impressed. The young man introduced himself. Hello, I'm Neil Garcia, a trainee with Black Rain. He had come to collect the case data from the previous week. Please wait. I'll get it for you. Thank you, Garland replied curtly. As Neil waited, he hesitated for a moment before asking, I also noticed that the deputy captain didn't come to headquarters today. Is something wrong? Garland's face softened slightly, though his tone remained serious. He just needs to rest after catching a cold. I'll take care of him, so don't worry. Neil nodded but couldn't help but notice that the deputy captain had been falling ill frequently lately. You can ask me for help if you need it, he offered kindly. Garland studied him for a moment before speaking again, his voice tinged with something resembling approval. He might seem difficult to approach, but he's actually a good person. Neil, though still somewhat in awe, smiled at the remark, grateful for the reassurance. A man urgently approached, pleading for help. Sir, please help me. My brother, Ochoa Brook, has been missing for a long time. Here is his photo. At the Black Rain headquarters, in the meeting room, the captain motioned for the man to come in. Please come in. Here is the information you requested about the police station in Lake Village. The deputy team leader, who had been recovering from an illness, nodded in response to the captain's inquiry. Yes, Captain. Is it all right if I join the deputy team on this mission? The captain's expression grew stern.
No.
Last time you followed the team without permission. It can't happen again. Have you finished your work in the reference room? Go to the reading room now and organize the information. As the man left to do his tasks, he thought to himself, if he doesn't step up and take part in the mission, he'll never be able to prove himself. The captain then continued with a more serious topic. Let's get down to business. I called you this morning because Mike Brook, the royal jewelry supplier, reached out to me. His brother, Ochoa Brook, has gone missing. Mike had asked Ochoa to pick up goods in Lake Town, but after 5 days with no word, the supplier claims Ochoa returned. Doesn't this sound like an ordinary disappearance case? The captain paused before adding, this matter involves the royal family. The informant begged the Earl for help. He even visited the Earl yesterday. That's why this case is now within our jurisdiction. You need to take it seriously and investigate it yourself. The deputy team leader acknowledged. Understood. According to the local police, many people have gone missing recently, especially those involved in the pearl business. Missing people? And it's related to the pearl trade, the captain asked. Yes, most are involved in the pearl business. I noticed a peculiar kind of pearl at a jewelry store recently. It's been popular for about a year now, the deputy team leader explained. The captain nodded. I'll leave this investigation to you. It may be more than a simple disappearance. Then the captain shifted to another topic. Your first partnership with the Duke of Hazel hasn't been smooth, has it? I'm sorry, I couldn't control him, the deputy team leader admitted. The captain reassured him, it's not your fault. It's not unusual for aristocratic lords to act unpredictably. However, since he's part of Black Rain now, you must always be vigilant. If any trouble arises, let me know. The deputy team leader nodded. I understand. Later, the deputy team leader reflected, the necklace really works wonders. My heart doesn't hurt as much anymore, but I only have a few months left. What's the point of all this trouble? A new, urgent mission was called. The captain ordered, if you're not feeling well, stay in the dormitory. But there's a very important commission today. Get moving. Why the hurry? The deputy team leader murmured, dressing quickly. Where's Lexus Village? Lexus Village just emerged a year ago. It's a 22-hour train ride, the captain replied, unfazed. The deputy team leader sighed. Really troublesome. Don't you have any closer cases? The captain smirked. Sometimes acting recklessly has its perks. Thanks to you, I can breathe the fresh air of a small, remote fishing town. The deputy team leader smiled at the captain's teasing before turning to leave. I'm going out for a while. Be good, and make sure no one sees you.